getting...
You can't always.
This is the death
Remarkably empty.
Turn back. Towards God. Rise up.
It's always good as a priest to reach out to people. And that's something that I've found in my ministry as a priest. It really sort of gives me a joy in my heart that I was able to reach out. That's what Jesus Christ himself did. He reached out to those who are out there. Nobody was able to reach to them. I am the parish priest of Victoria Point in Brisbane. Both of my parents are all Catholics. I was brought up as a Catholic, but at the age of 12 years old, I was grazing my parents' sheep and goats just next to the hills, in which I then saw a car, a vehicle drive to where I was grazing my father's flock. And came out of that vehicle was the bishop. His name is Bishop Paride Taban. He then saw me and then said to me, "Son, what are you doing here?" So I said to him, I was grazing my father's flock just next to this hill. And then he said to me, you need to be in the seminary. Well, by then I have no idea even what seminary is. But my answer to him was, yes, I will go to the seminary. I think from that instant, it seems like the call was already put into my heart. Anyway, after grazing the animals and all that, take them all, lock them in the paddock, and then I went home. Arriving home, and then the first person that I've spoken to was my mother. Then Mom said to me and said, "You see that bishop that said ask you to go to the seminary? That bishop baptized you when you were a baby, while he was still a priest." So that's the time in which that call to become a priest, I started to ponder it as a 12 years old. In South Sudan, I began to ponder that call to become a priest. Well, I was very young, 12 years old. The civil war in South Sudan started in 1983, in which a lot of people have been displaced and millions been killed. So by then, I didn't know the word refugee, but until I became one, when I took refuge in Uganda. Living in Uganda in a very poorly condition, it affects a lot. And especially, a 12-year-old without parents. When the war broke out, separate the family. When our area was attacked, and of course, heavy artillery, bomb, all those things were thrown in there. Remember, you're not going to run in one direction. So imagine a family, about 9 children and a parents. That makes about 11, people. You're not going to run in the same direction. So that's why we were all scattered at the time, because everybody's running for their lives. So I ended up running by myself. My parents and the other siblings ran, separately. Thank God for them, they ended up in the same area, captured there. I ended up running away and ended up in Uganda. It's so difficult to live alone as a teenager in those places. And a life of refugee is not easy. So I've lived in Uganda in a refugee camp for 7 years. And within these 7 years, it's a very, very difficult experience. And of course, you see a lot of things in which you never expected that a child in that age will see. Living as 7 years in the refugee camp, I also left Uganda. I went to Kenya seeking a very good life. Arriving in Kenya, we were also put in a refugee camp, and that one even became worse. The quality of food that was given, sometimes you just think, this is not for human beings, but what can you do? So we survived on that. Another 7 years in the refugee camp in Kenya. And that was one of the experiences in which, it's still, sometimes when I sit down, I've reflected on it and I thought, well, is this really how, human beings supposed to live like this? But with all that, of course, things ended up turning up for the good, in which I got the process of coming to Australia. I've never even think I'll be arriving here. But thank God, the Australian Embassy went to the camp and did interview about 63 young people. I was one of those, interviewed. And of course, when I passed that interview, I was then given a permanent residency to come to Australia, in which that gave me, all this opportunity, to arrive to this country, to Brisbane, which is in 2001. That's when I arrived here in Brisbane. After arriving in Brisbane in 2001, I still have this call to priesthood. But again, I went to work because I arrived in a new country. You need to do some work, and all that. Anyway, I went and joined a work. I was working in one of the bedding factory. We were making mattresses, delivering it around Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, all over the place. But it's still, I've got that call to become a priest. It's still going on in my mind. So anyway, one Sunday I went to St. Paul's Parish, Woodridge, and I met with Sister Anna. Sister Anna, who's one of the Canossian sisters, said to me, the seminary is here in Banya. So I say, how do I, talk to the person who is, in charge of the vocation? And then she gave me the contact number of Father Anthony Rondazzo, who is now the Bishop of Broken Bay. So Sister made a call to Rondazzo, Father Rondazzo, and then gave me the number to call him and have a chat with him. So I called Father Anthony Rondazzo and we talked, and he invited me to come to his office in the city. So I went and met with him. We had a little chat, and then he said to me, there is a house we're opening in Fortitude Valley. That house is a Canali house. So that house is the house for discernment, for the students who are discerning the call to priesthood. So then I moved in there. I was the first student that moved to that house of discernment. At the end of the year, then I was asked to go and meet with our Archbishop, by then late Archbishop John Battersby. So I met with John Battersby, and then we had the conversation with him, and he says to me, look, you can go to the seminary. So by then Anthony was also preparing to go to Rome for his further studies. So Anthony left. I went to the seminary. The director of the seminary by then is Father Michael McCarthy, who is now as well the Bishop of Rockhampton. So I joined the seminary, and then I think there are a few others as well joined in our first year. Entering into the seminary, of course, there are many challenges there again, after, for instance, myself, after not seeing my family for nearly 23 years, I decide, after the World Youth Day, I have to go to South Sudan and visit my parents. By then, my father was critically ill. He had a stroke, and that led to his death. But anyway, just after coming back from South Sudan, I think 3 months later, he passed away. And then I also took a year off of the seminary. I went back to workforce. I worked for about a year, supporting my family back home there. After that, then again, by then as well, Father Anthony Randazzo was appointed as the rector of the seminary. So I went back to the seminary and continued my studies from that till the ordination. But again, I would say there are many challenges, goes on, and we might all know, English is not my first language, believe me. I have a few languages that I've known, but this is probably the fourth or the fifth language that I know. So there are challenges that I encountered during my time in the seminary, but of course, with faith, trust, and prayer, that led to the ordination, which was on the 29th of June 2013. After my ordination, I was appointed in a couple of parishes as an associate. And of course, the reason for that is for us as a newly ordained to gain more experience. And within those years, of course, as a priest newly ordained, involved in doing holy masses, do a funeral, baptism, couple of weddings, and of course, as you go along visiting people, which you call the pastoral visit, you go around and learn from all this. And for the period of 7 years as an associate, now you get to know, you gain all this experience, and now you become a parish priest. We do a lot of visitation. We visit people in homes, hospitals, and nursing homes. But I'd like to talk about visiting people in their houses, those who are homebound. So to me, I've seen that it's always good as a priest to reach out to people. And that's what I've been doing since I came to this parish. I've been visiting people in their homes, especially during this time of COVID. Visiting those who are unable to come for a church for some times. Even before just going to their homes, you give them a phone call, and they're so happy with that. Some, even just the phone call, a lot of them were so happy to hear that, their pastor is actually, ringing them. And that's something that I found, in my ministry as a priest. And of course, as well, there's these people that I visited in the hospital. There's one couple that I visited in the hospital. They're in their time of really, as we all know, when it comes to the time where we depart this world, and people really sort of, will be so happy to see that, they're now receiving this sacrament, this last rite. So when arriving there, of course, the first thing is I talk to them, and then I then give them the last rite. But within that, the way they join in the prayer of faith, praying together, as you pray together with them, is so moving. So I've did few of this with my parishioners here in this parish, in which it really sort of give me a joy in my heart that I was able to reach out to someone whom, for a long time been, wanting someone to come to them. So to me, that is something that is so powerful, to minister this. There are those who will come as well, to the parish, and seek, advice from the priest. Father, this is what is happening in my life, and all that. So with my advice to them, talking to them about what is happening into their lives, was so moving as well. To them, they find a joy that they are able to share something that they are unable to share with anybody but to share with the priest. So to me, that was something, great, in the priest's life to reach out and talk to the people, who are really, because that's what Jesus Christ himself did. He reached out to those who aren't there. Nobody was able to reach to them. So to me, that was, so important for a priest's life to reach out to those whom nobody reached them out there. As being a priest, prayer is so important in our lives as Christians. Sometimes, as priests, we intend to caught up with this and say, well, as a priest, I'm saying Mass, doing all these activities, that's enough. But no, prayer as a priest need to be part of our life. So we need to pray constantly. So to me, a personal relationship with God and with Jesus Christ is so important as a priest. So I have my personal prayers that I normally do, leave apart morning prayers or the office, what we call it, the office. You pray the morning prayer, evening prayer, night prayer, all this. Spending time as well alone, praying is so important as well. Spending time, especially here, that's what I do. Just coming quietly, sitting in this chapel here, at this Blessed Sacrament here, quietly praying, connecting with Jesus Christ, have a personal relationship with God and with Christ. That's so important because again, we hear in the gospel, Jesus do works, healing people, going over, visiting people, doing all this work. But again, he also have a personal time for himself to connect with God. Personal prayer, again, I'll mention that. So he go and spend time alone. And again, as he said to his disciples, let us go to a lonely place by ourselves so that we can spend time, building our relationship with God. So that's what, as a priest, we need to have a time to spend in prayer. That's, to me, is so important so that we have that good connection with God. So again, I will come here, pray rosary, personally myself, sitting here in this chapel quietly and pray, connecting with God. And again, as I say in the beginning, spending time with God is so important to build that relationship with our God and with Jesus Christ. If we don't have a personal prayer to ourselves, then we're lacking things. Your life as a priest without a personal prayer, it'll be a problem. So we need to spend quality time with God. So that's, to me, it is, what I, do every day in my life is spend quality time in a quiet prayer, either next to the Blessed Sacrament Chapel, or if I'm in my house in the presbytery, I can sit there, and spend time as well in prayer, praying to God and connecting, with God as well. So to me, that's what I do as a priest, and I'll continue to do that. Praying, and, connecting with God is so important. As priests, we are also human beings. What I'm going to say is reconciliation. I have my personal confessor that I go to and visit regularly, just to, to connect, with that person as well, to say to God, really, I'm sorry for what I've done. We can say things sometimes we don't mean it, but again, for you to know that yes, as humans, we can, we can say things in which we don't even, realize that we've done it until when we, sit down and then know, oh yeah, I think I've done something. And that's why I also encourage, a lot of my brother priests that, visiting our confessors are also so important so that we confess to our merciful God our sinfulness because we're priests. So that's so important as well. We need to listen to the voice of God. God is calling us every time. So my call comes through the bishop that asked me to go to the seminary. And from there, of course, there is other channels in which that might lead us really to know, what God is calling us, on all that. So I'll encourage our young people out there, please listen to the voice of God. And again, if you listen to that, you will know what God is calling you. You wanted to, to serve Him as a priest, religious, all those ministries, once we listen to God calls. So that's my encouragement to our young people out there. Please listen to God.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelisation, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelisation? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelisation. Another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that. And the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.